You're calling from an 817 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
My name's Matt. I'm calling. I'm in North Dakota, but I'm from Texas.
Oh, wow.
And no offense to Matt, but I hate North Dakota. So,
Sir.
What are you doing there if you hate it? What are you in college?
Stealing our oil, like
Stealing their
Texans usually do.
I'm active duty military. So.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
You better mind your P's
Not
and
much
Q's,
choice.
Matt. Yeah,
Yes,
he's
sir.
serving our country, you bastard. Well, what's on your mind, Matt? Thanks for calling. Sorry you're in North Dakota.
So, oh yeah, no worries. So, I've been reading more and more into like economic theories about like how the state is involved in our economy.
Mm-hmm.
And are you guys familiar with Mariana Mazzucato?
Yeah, a little bit. She's good.
Okay, yeah. I was going to see if you guys should have her as a guest one day, because I've been reading her book and The Entrepreneurial State, and it's a really good book. Her and also Linda Weiss, she wrote America Inc., Innovation and Enterprise in the National Security State. But I've been getting more and more interested in it.
What was the name of that book?
Like
Would you mention the second book one more time? Brendan, do you mind getting that down? What was the second book?
Question mark, or America Inc. question mark, Innovation and Enterprise in the National Security State. It actually, that one focuses more on, it delves more into how the national security apparatus is involved in these economic ventures, and
right.
You know, whereas Mazzucato is more about like changing the narrative about our how we take risks in our economy.
Yep.
And a method of tackling, a green revolution as far as state intervention, which, I mean, she's not really a socialist by any means. She's a capitalist. They're both capitalists, but I think it's interesting that they're, so focused on the changing of the narrative, yet still holding to these ideas of like profit motives and whatnot. And I'm like,
well, if you look at, her,
in there.
100%. And I'm not, I mean, I'm a socialist, but I think everybody should read and take ideas from every source possible. I know Maria Mazzucato is really interesting. I think actually, to be honest, we did a couple years try to get her on the show, and it just logistically didn't quite work out, but that's somebody definitely to put back on the list. And also, I would look up on, related to this, there's just about a 3-minute clip on YouTube where Mark Blythe, who's a great, the economist at Brown, he explains what Brazil under Lula and Dilma did in the Mazzucato model, actually, in terms of using state investment to spur innovation and then put the, redistribute the rewards. Actually, maybe we could find that. It's only like a 2-minute clip. We could play it maybe. You got anything else, Matt?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so like I missed the libertarian callers. I wish we could get more libertarian callers in, because I love hearing y'all debate with them. I actually got a chance to talk to my local representative. His name's Jonathan Sticklin. This was like a couple years ago. I wanted to talk to him about climate change and kind of like how we could tackle it with this particular method.
Mm-hmm.
And one example I used that I thought was kind of effective, kind of got him thinking a little bit, was the whole like cars, how cars work in our society, and how the government invests in highways as opposed to public transit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot of data that goes into how public transit could definitely be a lot better in that regard. But I wanted to really get him on the libertarian front from that perspective. And I told him, like, when we invest in highways and stuff like that, I mean, we're really making a commitment to less choice in our economy as far as what type of transportation you're going to take. You're basically telling people you're going to increase the amount of state security, like more highway patrols, more seatbelt laws, more laws in general that have to regulate this type of transportation. And then also I kind of threw in there like there's a lot of propaganda that has to convince people you need a car, you really need a car, like luxury and you know, all this stuff. And in school we learned a lot about how advertisements are basically the perfect example of logical fallacies. So, but I don't want to get too nerdy on you.
I don't think you could have worked in the brand strategy space, buddy.
On the what?
I don't think you could have worked in brand strategy. No, I think you're totally right. I mean, there's good, not only logical fallacies. There's interesting literature on, like, I think they call it the manufacturing of desire, and when advertising shifted from just sort of like saying what a product did to selling emotional experiences. And yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely, I don't want to turn it into like a lifestyle thing. That, you know, obviously to deal with big problems, there needs to be major changes in policy and institutions. But there's no doubt that, I mean, there's just patterns of consumption that we have that I'm not a hair shirt person. And I think if you've ever lived with any type of even mild, serious material deprivation, you want people to, you know, have nice things and live a comfortable life 100%. But I think Daniel Bessner's right. Like, I don't know that, you know, does everybody constantly ordering everything on Amazon? Is that compatible with a sustainable world? Is that compatible with, you know, not totally grinding workers? I don't think so. I really don't. I think there does need to be some real changes in how we consume. And I think definitely that's one of the remaining, for all of the huge problems of New York in terms of gentrification and expensiveness and all of this, not having to have a car here, it's massive. It's huge. Hugely positive benefit on everything from ecology to social life to your personal health. So no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think one thing I get from you listening to you guys is more about the social, cultural aspects of these issues. And I really, you know, appreciate that, because if I just focused on this whole, like, well, the economics of it all, you know, then I don't think I would have a very good grasp on these concepts. So I appreciate you guys' show.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. Hopefully you get out of North Dakota soon.
Have a good one.
Did you find that Blythe clip? It's kind of interesting. If you just put in Mark Blythe Brazil, it kind of speaks to what he's talking about. It's like a 2-minute clip. Because I can't explain the Matsukudu thing as well as he does in that clip. Yeah, that's it. This is sort of what she's getting.
A little bit about the BRIC countries and especially what Brazil needs to be doing.
Brazil needs to do what Brazil's been doing, which is awesome.
So this is like when Brazil was doing awesome. This is several years ago. Yeah.
So quick primer on Brazilian political economy. For years and years and years, they had one of the highest Gini coefficients in the world. They were incredibly unequal. And they had a problem because wealth being so concentrated meant that the people who make effective investment decisions decided that their own economy was too risky because it would either be run by the military or run by the communists or run out of town. So they would take their money and they would put it in Citibank, which is nice and secure, and you get a lesser rate of return, but you don't matter because you own everything anyway. So that's the way it went on for years and years, until it got to a point where basically you had to spend so much money on private kidnap insurance and mining your house against the people who would try and kill you, that they did a deal with a guy called Lula. Lula used to run the Workers' Party. So the guy running the Workers' Party, the lefty guy, comes in and basically does exactly as I said at the bottom of that slide. Democracy is asset insurance for the rich. Stop skimping on the payments. So they did a strategy whereby they got BNDES, the Brazilian National Development Bank, to bank their lending portfolio, by the way, is twice the size of the World Bank, to subsidize domestic corporations so that they could multinational. So you got companies like Embraer, the aircraft company, there's a big cement company, others, that are now globally successful corporations. Because of that expansion, bankrolled by the development bank, what they do is they tax the companies on their earnings abroad, bring that back in, and they set up something called Bolsa Familia, which is the welfare state that Brazil never had. This has squeezed the income distribution like this at the same time as it's gone up, which enables the Brazilians to finally build a middle class. It empowers the middle class and it disempowers the traditional landowning elites. So what you end up with, there's a little fix you do with domestically high interest rates to keep these guys happy. But what you've actually done is to engineer a kind of neo-developmental welfare state, which has actually been great for Brazilian growth and has actually brought down the Gini coefficient. Because of this, everybody wants to buy Brazilian assets, which is why the real's going up, and they're export dependent, so they're freaking out. So what they've done is they've put inward capital controls on inward investment. And usually the big fear is, you know, you put your money in, they put up capital controls, you can't get it out, it's expropriation. They're doing it totally different. They're like, you want to come here? Dead easy. Pay a transactions tax and a deposit. Because if you're not coming in for the long term, forget about sitting here earning high interest rates just because you can. So they're making it difficult for that money to come in. But as a growth node in a big country, it is happening nonetheless. So the real's going up, the economy's slowing down. But what they've done over the past 10 years, I think, is nothing short of remarkable.
So yeah, I mean, and some of the stuff that they investigated and tried to leverage, there was for sure corruption in some of those enterprises, but that's the model they built, and it's very analogous to how she talks about using the state for innovation. They also had big implications for public health expansion as well in Brazil, and that was probably like in 2012 and 2013 when everybody was recognizing the immense success of this model. And unfortunately, instead of democracy being asset protection for the rich and oligarchs in Brazil decided to just go back into coup mode because they could not deal with this sort of arrangement. Because I think probably for some legitimate concerns about things like crime, but mostly because of just pure class hatred and resentment of having like Afro-Brazilians in governance, as an example. That was another major thing that the Workers' Party government put in place. Okay.